Well, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another desk video, something that hasn't been done in a while. I mean, with all the gaming content that's come out, and don't worry, there's going to be more of that. That is coming out very, very soon. But if you watched my last video, you may or may not have noticed that I may or may not have went to New York City. And if you're a long-time viewer of my channel, I may or may not have gone here. Oh wait, I did go there. Clearly, because, yeah, evidence. But yeah, I did. But I did get something that's a little bit more pricey than what I've gotten there at the past. But we'll get to that in a second now. I mean, you've probably read the title at this point. You know. But yeah, I may or may not have gotten myself this. Yeah, I've already shot this one once. It's not that good. And more importantly, if you kind of know something about me, you know that I'm into audio equipment, surprisingly, outside of gaming and electrical stuff, as well as programming. I am into audio equipment, so, you know. In fact, eagle-eyed viewers amongst you may have noticed that I have one of these launchpad things, and more importantly, that I literally decided to get one of these knockoff Arturia Minilogue MIDI controller things. But yeah, but that's not what we're going to be focusing on today. Trust me. I may do a review of those things in another while, but until then, ooh, how am I going to fit this into the shot? Oh, I got my hands on something that's a little bit, yeah. Again, if you read the title, you'd kind of know where the hell this is going. Now, if autofocus would do its thing, let's just kick that up. I think it would be better if, okay, yeah. Yeah. I got myself into an actual synthesizer. Alright, so let's get the thing out of box, even though it's already been unboxed and I just, you know, had to reshoot everything. But let's just cut to that footage. Yeah. Well, now that we've unboxed the thing, let's just take a bit of a look. Despite being a mini synth, it does still pose itself as pretty big. I mean, in my intent of actually trying to stage this video, you know, I mean, normally you won't see the lab supply back here, but unfortunately you're going to have to live with it. But anyway, let's boot this thing up, and yeah. Now, one cool feature I noted when you boot this thing is that if you go and move this slider, because it's like a multi-program slider, you can actually play a game of Breakout with the boot screen. I guess it's a cool little concept that Korg created for this thing, and once it boots, it's pretty good actually. So despite it being an analog synth, there is a lot of digital stuff that is important here. But anyways, yeah, let's just do a bit of a once-over at the build quality and maybe the features of this thing. Yeah. Now, if you haven't realized from the montage of me plugging this thing in, you know, trying to make a very trivial task seem epic and awesome and cool and stuff, you know, you notice that the back panel was made of wood, actually. It's not completely made of wood, it's actually just a decorative wood thing that just... And the bottom and side panels are mostly plastic, but the top panel is literally just this piece of curved aluminum, basically. It's just such a good build quality, though. And I mean, this is already off the bat showing itself as a really cool piece of audio equipment. You know, because for $500 you get a hell of a lot of features for this thing. And let's just get into those. I mean, like, seriously. This isn't the first time I've unboxed this thing. In fact, I'm actually reshooting the scene as well, because reasons. But yeah, the features are just so good on this thing. Let's just start out logically here and get to the two VCOs, and yeah, they're pretty basic, I guess. They have your three wave shapes that you know, you'd normally expect, like octaves, controls, but you know, as for wave shapes, you got a square, a sawtooth, and a triangle wave. Alright, so now we're doing the thing. Got it hooked into audio. I've also loaded in the init preset, meaning that it's like just the default sound, like when you freshly open the box and all the knobs are like at their bare minimum, or where it is to where you can get a decent sound out of it. So this one has an acceptable sound. It's currently a sawtooth wave, I think. Yeah, it's a sawtooth wave. But yeah. So let's just take a good old look over the wave shapes. Got the square wave, and we can actually look over the oscilloscope here and I can just show you what this looks like. Let me just get up in volume. But yeah, as for wave shape, it's pretty good on that. And then you got the triangle wave. It's about par for the course for that. Now, of course, you do have two of these things, so you can introduce another one, which this one I believe is also set towards sawtooth, or it could be a triangle. Who knows? Let me just turn down the first VCO. Okay, yeah, that is a triangle. But you know, you can then mod that. Like there, you have a square wave now. And now you get, but the second VCO has probably the coolest features compared to the first one. Most notably, you can actually modulate the VCO, which I believe is... But anyway, you do have controls over over oscillator sync, cross mod, and a ring modulator. And if we turn that on, we can have it all sync that in. Pitch is on. This is for like pitch integration with the envelope generator. So for ADSR envelopes, as you can hear, it detuned as time went on. Now we're on cross mod, so the cross mod is what's creating that weird frequency sweep sound. And if you look over at the oscilloscope, it just looks interesting, this wave. So yeah. Now if we sync the oscillators again, well, it just looks a bit boring, but yeah. But more importantly, you get the ring modulator, which lets you, you know, do a ring modulation thing. In fact, it kind of brings me to remembering one of the first videos I did for this channel, preferably the one where I tried to build a ring modulator with those Snap Circuit Kids electronics kits. That never went well. Don't watch that video, I guess. But now we have an actual ring modulator on this thing. And also, you can mix in noise when you are doing your thing. There we go. I actually mixed in a bit of noise on that one. In fact, let's just put on some pure noise and let the people who like the ASMR content give them what they want. And if it isn't peaceful enough for them, let me just set that. There we go. Could go down with this sustain. It's not a very bad sound for noise. Otherwise, let's just take a bit of a quick peek at the filter. I know a lot of people want to see stuff about that. Let us return VCO2 and VCO1 back together, so we're back at normal stuff. We're back at our original wave that we had in the past. But now, let's just take a look at the good old filter here, because this is usually the big high point of these reviews, as I've noted. So the generic cutoff sound, that's a filter, alright. It's only a low-pass filter, though. That's one thing I noted about this. Very much only a low-pass. But the resonance is just like... It's just like that... It's just like a very good... when it comes to resonance, because it's like... It's got a lot of... because it's basically kind of like... resonance where it's kind of like ear-piercing at the high frequencies, and that's kind of what you want when you have resonance. So let's try this again, but with resonance. And now I think it should be a good time to offer an apology to those who are listening to this on headphones. I mean, should have expected this, considering you were watching a synth review and, you know... Oh well. You do get controls over how many pulls you get on the resonance. It does kind of make a bit of an effect. It's also where key tracking, where you can set the cutoff to some amount, and the cutoff frequency will adjust itself to whatever key is being pressed at the moment. Key track is currently off, so if I go higher in frequency or if I go lower in frequency, so let's see if I can get it to a cutoff there. As you can hear, that the high note that I just played is just quiet, but key track on, everything is good, you know, not half bad. I don't know why they did the whole 50 to 100% thing. I'm gonna assume because people only like want certain levels of it, but velocity is handled through the filter, if it hasn't been made blatantly obvious at this point. So here's with a really slow velocity. and as you can see, nothing's coming out. And let's just do it real hard. There we go. So yeah, it's pretty cool what it does. But let's just get on to the next segment of this part. Let's just take a look at the envelope generator, which I've kind of touched on. It's generic ADSR envelope. There is a model that is lower than this. It's a bit cheaper than this. Preferably the Minilogue. It has an AR envelope, meaning that you don't get decay and sustain. That was kind of a deal breaker for me, so I wanted to have a full ADSR envelope. If you notice here, you'll notice that there's amp AG, which is the amp envelope generator, which means that all of the volume controls that the envelope generator's timing systems control go to an amplifier, so something like an op amp, so it'll turn the volume down physically. This envelope generator, I presume, goes to the filter, which will have it adjust the cutoff frequency as the time goes on. It's not really that special. I think it's like an infinite sustain like every synth release, you know. Pretty standard. But it's pretty cool to have anyway. Let's just take a bit of a small peek at the LFO here. We've got the same wave shapes as the normal VCOs, but we run it at a lower frequency. You've got envelope generator modulation, meaning that as the envelope generator continues onwards, so like as goes out of attack phase, a decay phase, you know, as the value of the volume goes up on the envelope generator, the synth will modulate it so it can send data back to the two VCOs and say, okay, I need you to go to this volume, you know. And what it'll do is it'll do something like, if we set it to rate, what it'll do is it will, as the envelope generator goes up or down, it adjusts its frequency so it runs faster as it goes up. Int just means that it's how much it changes the values by, like plus or minus, like 10, 20, you know, 30 or whatever units Korg used to manufacture this thing. And then you got the 3 targets you can go to. You only get the 3 targets. That's one of the big shortcomings of this. But I guess that's expected. I mean, this is not a modular synth. Therefore, you know, pretty acceptable. But you get 3 targets. The pitch, which is acceptable. Shape. It adjusts how the wave shaper. And cutoff, it just adjusts the cutoff frequency on the filter. So yeah. And so moving over to one of the final sections, yeah, you'll notice that we're on a bit of a digital section now. Most importantly, we have a tape delay with output routing modes, 3 of which, currently it's on bypass. They do say it's a tape delay. They call it a tape style delay in some of their advertising. But yeah, it's digital. But it does capture the main sound of a tape delay effect. In fact, if we set the time, it actually sounds accurate. And because I have the feedback so high, let me just add more notes to make it sound interesting. It does the thing that every tape delay can do. It can self-oscillate. And sound weird too. Also, it has a non-resonant high-pass filter, kind of to make up for the low-pass filter. So if you do need a high-pass filter, you could still get away with using the high pass for the delay. If we move down, we have the digital section. In fact, it's kind of all around the thing. In fact, there's even some next to the thing. In fact, let's just turn off our delay so we can actually talk about this stuff. So you get a bit of an OLED screen. As you've been noticing through this video, and why I kept pointing the camera at this, is because it can be used as an oscilloscope. So that means, you know, you can do oscilloscope things. More importantly, you do have a program/value knob. It's not really a knob, it's an encoder, but you get to switch through and scroll through the programs and stuff. Like if you've made a patch, you can scroll to it. We've even got a shift button, which is used for the sequencer, voice mode depth, because of the 8 voice modes we'll get to. But yeah, but now if we look at these little buttons here, this is where all the fun begins. Well, I mean, the fun's already begun, but oh well. But yeah, you got edit, which is if you want to write the parameter, like, you know, ooh, that sounded good, let's just write that. You know, you press that twice and you're good. And you have that sound. You get exit if you don't want to write it, you know, if you don't want to write to it. Edit mode, which brings up a menu of just so many options that are kind of not even on the thing, like program edit. If we take a look at that, not only do you get to rename the patch, but you get to do slider assignments, bend ranges, LFO syncings for the LFO settings, portamento time, that could be really interesting, and initialize and dump. You don't want to do that. I mean, unless you're really trying to purge your thing, then I would say use Korg's buggy sound librarian app for that one. I say it's buggy because every time I tried it, I had issues with having corrupted MIDI messages and corrupted Xenyx strings for whatever reason. So yeah, that's fun. It would just say received MIDI messages broken. It wouldn't attempt to reconnect to the synth and get a not broken MIDI message. I don't know what caused it. Or it would just get to the end of the preset scan. The synth would be done. But it wouldn't go through. It would just say timeout with synthesizer occurred, like it didn't time out well. It could be because I'm using I'm Mac running beta versions of Mac OS, but you know. But anyway, let's just get to the sequencer. Now, all the 100 presets that Korg gives you in the box, which is 100 out of 200, so you know, a lot of inspiration, but you're kind of hidden. Kind of like, but you know, they kind of have to not, you know, they don't just, they kind of give you like half of your presets like already used up from the factory, but presets they do give you, like the 100 that they give you from the factory, are pretty good. In fact, I'll be making a segment of this video later where I talk about some of these presets, and yeah. So you have 8 buttons here. Normally these are used for the sequencer, but at this point, because there's no sequence running through them, we haven't pressed the play button or the record button or anything with the sequencer yet. You'll notice that it goes to voice mode, which is, well, voicing. As you may have noticed, we're already on poly, which means that we have 4 voices polyphony attached to us, meaning we can play a maximum of 4 notes at a time. We also get to invert it, so it can kind of sound a bit higher pitched. We get duo mode, Now this is real interesting because it's basically two voices stacked. It's kind of like an Art Odyssey if they just modded it for like, but if it was 4 voices instead of 2, and you know, all that stuff. You get to detune it so it sounds like, so it just sounds fat as hell, you know. We get unison, which basically is where every voice plays, the synth becomes a mono synth, and every voice plays like the duo mode. You get to detune it, and it just sounds so powerful when you do that. You get mono mode, which is kind of like, which kind of makes a more fat sound. You know, you got that fat sub-oscillator sound. Then you get chord mode, where where if you scroll through here, you'll notice different chord names, and all you have to do is just press one key, and the voice assigner, the digital section, will just do the thing for you. As you can see, every one of these things goes kind of chromatically up a bit. But yeah, and in addition to the tape delay, you get to have another delay, which in this case is more of a, the synth just re-triggers voices. As you can see, because we were on the extreme setting with the chord stuff, it's kind of the extreme setting here. You can get it to go to 1/192nd, which isn't really that big for delay times. Then we have ARP mode, where we can just go, where we get to screw around with the arpeggiator. I believe your 4-voice polyphony limit is still there. And if you go through the voice mode depth here, you get to choose what type of sequence you are given. And then there's sidechain. Now this is one of the weird ones where where it's kind of like poly mode, but it's basically when you introduce more notes, what it'll do is it will silence the other ones, or at least reduce the volume on them. I mean, it's a cool concept, not gonna lie. But yeah, so let's just get on with the sequencer. For that, I'm going to return to the first preset, and we get to hear what that sounds like too, because, you know, first preset, we should have done that at first part, but you know. But you know, so you got your first preset, and let's just take a bit of a small listen at what this first preset sounds like, because every preset that came from the factory also has a default sequence attached to it. So we have this sequence, which actually kind of advertises the synth real well. I mean, it kind of sounds like Prophet 5, because, you know, you have that weird growl from the filter kind of thing. You know, it kind of advertises a really good all-around synth. You know. But let's just get to the end of this one, and I'll show you what it does. But anyway, let's just take a look at the filter, or take a look at the sequencer, and if you press the 1, 8, 9, 16 button, it allows you to edit the preset. As you could see, if we were looking up at the screen, let's just get in on that. Notice how it says step edit 1 to 8. If I click again, it's step edit 9 to 16. Each one that's flashing is a note, and currently, if we click on any of these buttons, it will let us edit any one of 8 notes. And then we could just see all the chord progressions, and we could even see what what motions are being done here, like gate timing. Let's just go back to steps 9 to 16. And you don't have to press the button twice. You can, I believe you can use the encoder to do this. But yeah, you get to see what the thing looks like. Oh, and the presets here that come from the factory are fully editable, so if you don't like what one sounds like and you want it, or it's just so close to what you want it to sound like, you have every right to just change it. And you also get a shift button that can only really be used with the sequencer. What it does is it adjusts it. If you press it, it will let you adjust your step length. But, you know, it's not like it's a big, it's like it's required or anything. It's like, but it's good if you want to change the length of your step, like if you want to go for like an 8-note one, you know, rather than everything else. But anyway, let's just go into the part of the video where I play around with some of the presets and let you listen in on them. Alright. Alright, so some closing thoughts on this thing. This is an absolutely legendary synthesizer. It's been around for ages, like since 2015 ages, but you know what? It's a great synth. As someone who's starting out with these synthesizers, especially the physical ones, I could give this a solid 10 out of 10 for a first synth. I think even those who are experienced could probably pick up this thing without any problem. But yeah, if you like what you saw, please leave a like and subscribe. There isn't going to be much more about synthesizers, I'm afraid, on this channel, I don't think. I'll make a few videos like that on here, but there'll be some gaming videos mostly. But anyway, let's But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. And bye.